Hello and welcome back, and that is right, today we want to return to the increasingly murky subject of Synology and the drives that they will be supporting from 2025 series onwards. We've already done a video a week about this along with, let's face it, most of the internet. I'll be honest with you, right now, very few times have I ever seen something about Synology be published this broadly, this widely across so many platforms. And in the course of the last week or so, a lot of information has rolled out, some of which is officially backed and some of which isn't. Now, today's video, we're going to be basing this fully on official statements and official information, with the exception of one little screenshot that we're going to show later on in the video. But for now, I want to address a statement issued to me by Synology this yesterday on the 22nd of April, and this was after several communications between me and the brand with several parties there. And this was a statement they were prepared to share on this because, frankly, I badgered them like crazy and I can get super annoying. So, first thing I want to do in this video is go through this statement. It's going to take about 2 minutes, so if you don't really want to hear an AI reading to you, I'm only using an AI because you must be sick of my voice already, go ahead and listen to it on screen. Otherwise, fast forward about 2 minutes.
Synology's storage systems have been transitioning to a more appliance-like business model. Starting with the 25 series, DSM will implement a new HDD compatibility policy in accordance with the published Product Compatibility List. Only listed HDDs are supported for new system installations. This policy is not retroactive and will not affect existing systems and new installations of already released models. Drive migrations from older systems are supported with certain limitations. As of April 2025, the list will consist of Synology drives. Synology intends to constantly update the Product Compatibility List and will introduce a revamped third-party drive validation program. Reason for the new Synology HCL policy. Each component in a Synology storage solution is carefully engineered and tested to maintain data security and reliability. Based on customer support statistics over the past few years, the use of validated drives results in nearly 40% fewer storage-related issues and faster issue diagnostics and resolution. Each validated hard drive on the compatibility list undergoes over 7,000 hours of comprehensive compatibility testing across platforms to ensure operational reliability. Technical support data shows that validated drives result in a 40% lower chance of encountering critical disk issues. For models that have adopted the new hard drive compatibility policy, severe storage anomalies have decreased by up to 88% compared to previous models. By adhering to the Product Compatibility List, we can significantly reduce the variances introduced by unannounced manufacturing changes, firmware modifications, and other variations that are difficult for end users and Synology to identify, much less track. Over the past few years, Synology has steadily expanded its storage drive ecosystem, collaborating with manufacturing partners to ensure a stable and consistent lineup of drives with varying capacities and competitive price points. Synology intends to expand its offerings and is committed to maintaining long-term availability, which is not available with off-the-shelf options. We understand that this may be a significant change for some of our customers and are working on ways to ease the transition. Synology is already collaborating with our partners to develop a more seamless purchasing experience while maintaining the initial sizing and post-install upgrade flexibility that DSM platforms are renowned for.
So there was a lot to take in now, wasn't there? And we'll be returning to that statement later on in the video when we grab our little tweezers and tear it apart. But for now, let's talk about other stuff that's popped on the radar. Around about 2 days ago, we saw a plethora of information arriving about the DS925 Plus as it slowly started to emerge in Eastern markets there. And now on the 23rd of April, we can now see that it is pretty much launched in the Eastern regions. And with it, we can see the compatibility pages. And here we have the official DS925 Plus page. There's all the specifications. There's a 2.5 GBE, pretty much everything we already knew about this device. It has been leaked a few times previously there. But on top of that, alongside this on the AU page there, so Australia, we've also got it here on the Chinese page for Synology, synology.cn. But weirdly, it's not actually currently available on the Taiwanese page for a Taiwanese company, so I was kind of surprised there. Maybe it's just a case of catching up, time zone episodes, who knows. But nonetheless, what we all want to know about is the compatibility there. So we select the compatibility. I've already opened it, but let's do it fresh. And as you can see, here we have DS925 Plus, internal tray, so your standard trays, and boom, there it is, Synology's own drives only there. There's no option. So to put that into perspective, if we go for another product, say we go for the DS923, and we look at their compatibility pages, we'll see the existing status quo there. We scroll down, we select internal tray, and then from there, we're able to see that drop-down option to other brands. That is what's missing right now on this page. Now, we still don't know if this is something that is going to change once this device hits global availability. Also, if they do stand by their, words there about adding drives after full certification and all of those hours worth of testing, perhaps that option will return. But the fact that it's not there now is going to be disheartening for some. Also, there's the mixture of the enterprise-grade SSDs and enterprise-grade hard drives alongside the standard class Plus series drives. And of course, if we want to look at the M2 NVMe bay, I think that's going to be another interesting point here. Because I really thought we'd see third-party drives here. I thought we'd at least see for caching other options. I know Synology have got these drives for caching, and as I've mentioned in other videos, I was kind of hoping that Synology would have some higher performance SSDs, given this system can support storage pools. But still, the lack of that option there is definitely going to be disquiet to some, and hopefully it's something that Synology somewhere down the road are going to remedy upon, as they, say if drives get certified, they get added. Is it going to be a case of Synology drives are going to be Synology-Seagate? Who knows? Interestingly, expansion unit there obviously is just the DX525. As mentioned previously, the DS925 Plus has now kind of rescinded that expansion port on the rear. That's no longer something it supports. And as you can see, they are talking more about the drives on their page, but that's not exactly new. I'm not going to say that what we're seeing here is surprising, given, Synology have made some noise about this for a long time, and it is something we've expected in one shape or form. But still, nonetheless, I really thought we'd at least have the option to see, say, surveillance drives, see non-Synology drives for caching, but they really are going all in on this here. Now, even before those official pages were up, a website called SZMDM, a user called Valued Friend 2, actually posted some pictures of trying to set up a Synology DS925 Plus with drives that weren't on the official supported list. And as you can see from the images on screen, there's a lot of stuff that's going to annoy some of you about these images. Mainly, this is not someone that has installed DSM and going into the storage manager to set up their storage pool. This is initialization, and clearly baked into the dsm.pat installation file on this system, that compatibility list was pretty hard-coded in terms of the drives it could use. And although this is only really one single screenshot, and therefore we don't have full clarification or indeed the validity of this image, it has to be said that this is disconcerting for a number of you that were hoping that using third-party drives would simply be a case of the system warning you and telling you if you go beyond this line, you shan't go any further. You may not get support from us moving further. Not unlike what we've seen from Synology up to this point in previous DiskStation Plus series devices. But this indicates that even if you purchase this device and use third-party drives, or when I say third-party drives, I of course mean drives that are not verified by Synology for use in this system at the time you install them, then there's every possibility you're not going to be able to proceed beyond this screen. But again, this is something I can't fully verify or validate until I've got a unit here. So for now, this screenshot may disconcert some of us, but we have to at least treat it with a pinch of salt. Next up, let's return to the subject of those statements that were provided to me by Synology there. Now, we're going to pick them apart a little bit, but I do think we have to try to remain as balanced as possible here, which, let's face it, is going to be very difficult. But I want to start positive, okay? Number one, there's a lot of things in that statement which have been consistently true about the brand for a long time. Number one, this idea that they are moving into an appliance model for their business and for the Plus series and more. That's not coming out of left field. Notwithstanding active backup and the DP systems, Synology has more and more been kind of designing towards these single deployment models there. You know, when you look at B Station, even when you look at their router systems there, when you look at B Drive and more, Synology have not been secretive about this pathway for their systems. Likewise, Synology have also not been particularly secretive in past years about them providing their own storage media so that users could have a single ecosystem solution. It was largely the raison d'etre for rolling out those drives. So in some regards, some of us can't really be surprised to see the brand going down this road when they were already saying we're going to flesh out this single ecosystem platform. Additionally, and again, this goes all the way through to the German press release that we talked about last week and in articles on NAS Compares, they were very clear that this is not impacting old users currently. If people have older generation Synology devices running drives that are on the compatibility list of those systems, or are running third-party drives that aren't on that compatibility list but still running in those systems, this isn't going to change. And there are going to be ways and means, again, I'm looking forward to hearing what those ways and means are, to migrate those setups onto newer systems. Again, we've still got to wait to see how that's going to play out. But still, nonetheless, we can't really point at Synology and say they've not highlighted this in one shape or form for a long time. This just seems to be the end of that particular road there. And also, when this first was discussed back in 2021, 2022, Synology had barely any storage media. So the thought of them going down this road then would have been largely unthinkable. But now, with two different tiers of hard drives in both the kind of heavy workload enterprise capacity and that of the domestic day-to-day, and a series of SSDs of varying interfaces and performance, we have to at least acknowledge that there is an existing range. Depending on where you are in the world, of course, pricing and availability are going to be big factors. But nonetheless, we have to at least acknowledge that Synology have been preparing for this for a long time. However, it's not all good news. Let's be realistic. There is a reason this story has made its way around the world several times this week. And it's largely because the messaging here is a mess. Even right now, as very early launches of the 2025 generation, such as the DS925 Plus, are launching in the eastern regions, there's still so many things unknown. And that statement that we were reading through there, in some regard, actually adds more ambiguity. Now, there's my issues with it right now, or my issues with that statement, there's every possibility that when the 2025 generation rolls out here in the, let's call it the West, but we'll say Europe and America and more, that all of these will already be answered, whether it's because that was always the plan, or that, knobheads like me start raising these points and they address them at launch. I don't care which one of those is true. I just hope all of the following points I'm going to discuss are addressed in one shape or form. Probably the biggest one for me is Synology drives, as it's now seemingly going to be repurposed towards, away from compatible drives onto Synology drives. How exactly is verification going to take place? Now, for that, what I mean is it going to be a case that on this table, for example, we've got a Seagate Iron Wolf Pro and we've got one of their own Synology HAT3300 drives here. For this drive to work in a Synology system, is this going to have to be a Synology badged version of this, or if utilizing this drive will eventually be okay? How these drives are going to be both verified and how the drives are going to be presented to end users is really important. And talking in that verification process, who's doing the verification? Is this going to be Synology themselves granularly and slowly making their way through lots of different drives? I doubt it, because a lot of this is designed around efficiency. Is it more likely that they are going to be either petitioning or expecting the likes of WD and Seagate to do their own verification of these drives and submit verification results in the positive in order to get them on that drive? Is it going to be a collaborative experience between them, that white labeling I mentioned earlier on of a Synology badge on a Seagate drive? Or, highly unlikely, but you never know, is it going to be user submitted Highly unlikely, because again, we are looking at just a small subset of the newest generation systems that are arriving with quite a small range of drives from what we can expect to be accessible on launch. And circling back, do you remember on that statement earlier on when it mentioned that drives that were on the Synology drive list for these newer generation devices had 7,000 hours of, monitoring, testing, call it what you will? That's 291 days, 41 weeks. So does that mean, for example, that this 24 TB drive has already been in the testing for months and months and months, or is it going to be a case that the DS925 rolls out and, if you're lucky, you might be able to use a 24 TB drive around Christmas? But one of the things I really, really hope is addressed in greater detail when the 2025 generation of devices are more broadly available globally, that is the statistics that are being rolled out by the brand as to why they are refining and revamping their Synology drive selection of drives. I will say, if you're going to provide all of these statistics, I want more information about them. Don't get me wrong, the whole you can prove anything with statistics, and I am definitely not a we've had enough of experts kind of knobhead. But I will say, if you are going to use statements like 40% fewer storage-related issues, 88% decrease in severe storage anomalies, and 40% lower chance of encountering critical disk issues, I want to see the data. I want to see those statistics, whether it is a broader, elongated white paper that I will genuinely enjoy reading, or it is simply going to be further information of how you've attained these statistics. That is only going to be a good thing. And if anything, will allow a critical response to those that are saying this is drive locking to just go, no, we crunched the numbers. And one area that I actually went back and corrected some of my earlier coverage a week ago on this was to do with SSDs and more specialized drive media. And this is something, at least right now at the time of recording, has still yet to be really fleshed out. Now, we kind of assume at this point that if you're running a Synology NAS with M.2 NVMe's, that much like the previous generation, you're not going to be able to use third-party SSDs as storage pools. That's something we've kind of groaningly got used to in the last 18 months to 2 years. However, what about just generally M.2 NVMe's for caching? It seemingly looks like you're still going to be able to use third-party SSDs, but I'd like to see that on the dotted line. Moreover, what if I'm running a system that could benefit from some cheeky little SSDs? How about a system that's got 10 GB or higher where I think storage hard drives are going to serve as something of a bottleneck? What if I'm running a system for surveillance and I want surveillance targeted drives? For those who aren't aware, surveillance drives are drives that are designed to leverage far more towards write than they are read, because surveillance systems spend way more time recording and sending data than they are ever actually accessed. It's why a lot of surveillance systems do use dedicated surveillance drives. Synology, at least at the time of recording, does not have its own range of Synology surveillance storage media. It wouldn't surprise me if that is rectified in the next 12 months, but at least now, at the time of recording, if I buy a DS925 Plus, I want to know that I can use all of my drives. And yes, we've already addressed the Synology drive compatibility pages there on the DS925 Plus as it's launching in the East. But all of this doesn't matter now until the device is more broadly available globally, where we can pin down what drives work and which ones don't. Now, regardless of whether the first time you heard about this was here on NAS Compares, was it on Reddit, was it on Facebook, was it on the segment on the WAN show, was it on Lewis Rodman's piece, was it on Willie Howe's or Lon TV, was it on any YouTube platform, social media or wherever it is that you read or heard about this subject of Synology's reapproach and revamping and readjustment of support of drives that they do not claim to be compatible on their systems, at least at the launch of the 2025 series. The largest, most consistent complaint throughout all of this has been that the messaging has been garbled. Some might argue videos like mine and the others are only making it worse, and we should all sit tight and wait for official statements. And that's all fair and well, but there needs to be a larger tour de force of that information. There has to be a broader, global, clearer message. And unfortunately, it started fractured and it's only got more fractured. I hope that by the time the 2025 generation of devices roll out globally, that this messaging will be a great deal more consistent and clear, because I think that's what most users want right now, as they are considering buying a Synology 2025 generation device. They want to know why the drive range has become arguably more reduced at launch than many would think, what's going to happen in future, and overall how they benefit from that. That's the key thing here. But as always, let me know what you guys think in the comments. A lot of you in the previous video asked, am I going to continue to recommend Synology moving forward? And frankly, yes, because as long as Synology are going to be clearer about this, that's the only gripe I have with this more than anything, because you as the consumer have still got choice. If you don't want to vote with Synology and their change in practice towards drives, you can. That's the point. There are other options in the market and it is a competitive marketplace. Synology know that as well. But ultimately, I will still continue to recommend Synology, but it will be with that caveat about third-party or non-supported drive utilization becoming increasingly or perhaps impossibly not possible. But thank you, and I hope to look forward and speak to you in the comments further. Let me know what you guys think. But apart from that, I hope you had a lovely Easter. I know I did. Lovely eggs.
Fucking eggs come out of their arses. Fucking hell.
I will catch you next time.